Hey there, motorcycle people. Welcome back to the Avoid Highways breezeway. It is still way too cold in our garage, and so all of my work this winter is being done here in the breezeway. And I've got a fun project today. It is, I will tell you, completely unnecessary. This is a project that I've been thinking about for a long time. I've had the parts for a long time and never really was able to find the time to just tackle it. Since we are still snowed in and there'll be no riding anytime soon, I thought this was a great time to do it. We're going to do a turn signal swap, and I'm going from the stock turn signals that come on the SG250 to the stock turn signals from the 2022 and up TT250. And what inspired me to do this is, the stock SG signals, they are very effective. They're LED, very bright. I got no beef with how they work. Aesthetically, they're not the most pleasing thing to me. I think they're a little big, a little kind of goofy looking, and I felt like they took away just a little bit from the looks of the bike. I was considering what option to replace it with. If you look at CSC's website, they've got one or two options for replacement turn signals. Those run, I want to say, $90 per set. So 90 in the front, 90 in the back. And that was just a bit more than I wanted to spend for something that was just purely aesthetic. And so I got to thinking and was looking around the website and noticed that the 2022 and up TT250s had a totally different style of stock turn signal. These are slim. There's the single row of LEDs instead of 3 rows. Black housing, pretty sleek, pretty good looking. And so I was curious, would that work on an SG250? And I took a look at the wiring, and yeah, it will. And so instead of $90 a set, these run $13 per signal. If you look at the stock replacement parts for the TT250, $54 for the entire set of 4. And if you get them on a sale, like I did, right now I know at this moment at CSC is running 20% off stock replacement parts. You could be talking about mid $40 for replacing all 4 of your turn signals. Really, you can't beat that deal. And I think these are good looking. I think functionally they're going to be great. I've already installed one and I'm real pleased with it. So yeah, I think this is going to be a fun project. Like you said, utterly unnecessary. But if we didn't do unnecessary things to our bike, what fun would that be? So we're going to get into how to swap these out. It's pretty straightforward. They are, electrically speaking, plug and play. The one trick that I ran into is that the wire length on the rear TT250 signals is much shorter than the wire on the SG250. So what I'm going to end up having to do is cutting off some of the wire from the SG250, splicing it onto the TT250 signal, and then making that run up. But I've already done a test one. It's pretty straightforward, and then we'll take it from there. We're going to start out on the rear of the bike. It's going to be the easiest place to begin. And so you'll need to take your seat off, and I want to show you what you're going to find underneath. These were all bundled up in a zip tie holder. Cut that loose, and so you'll see there's 3 separate bundles of wires here. This bundle that's got 3 wires goes to your tail light, and so we're going to leave that out of this and just move it aside. These other 2 bundles are what go to the turn signals, and you'll see each of them has a green wire, 2 green wires that go into a single connector here, and then one side has a blue light wire and one side has an orange. And we're going to use those colors to match up to the TT250 signals that we're going to install in their place. The colors are the same, and so it all matches up nicely. I have already replaced the signal that had the blue and green wires. That was my right side turn signal. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to separate orange and its associated green wire. And those are just little bullet connectors. You just pull those straight out. And once those are free, we'll just take our wire bundle here, pull it underneath. And so it's just hanging out here. And you're going to just push that through. Remove the rear turn signal. It's a little tricky to see in here. We're just going to loosen that nut. That is 14 millimeter. That guy loose. There is one more little trick to getting this loose. So you're now looking up underneath the fender, and there is this little clip here. I'm going to try to get my hand in there so you can still see. So that clip wraps around. There's like a little hook there. So you're just going to bend it gently, super gently, away from the fender. And then you might have to tab a little bit on the other side to open it up. Then your wire is just going to be down through and come up around. And we'll leave that open so that we can put the new one back in, but you got to make sure to do that step, otherwise your wire won't come out. And again, that's just a little thin metal tab, so be super, super gentle with that. And then we're just going to pull the rest of the wire through. Our nut washers off over these bullet connectors, and then pull it through. Bingo, we're done. Just that easy to take it off. As I mentioned, I need to lengthen the wiring on the TT250 turn signal. So what we're going to do is cut most of the wiring from the SG250 and then splice it together here. I have marked here how much length I need. So I'm just going to grab my wire cutter. Snip that off. Get that guy out of the way. Clip off a little bit here of the sheath so that I've got room to work with the wiring. Pull some through on this end, mainly so that I've got room to make my attachment. And then I'm also going to clip off bullet connectors on the TT250 turn signal. And strip my wires so that I've got getting close to ½ inch really. I like to have a nice long space to connect. Actually, I got to split the sheath around TT250's wires too, just to give me more room to work with. right, give those a little twist. And then what I'm using to connect my wires today are these butt connectors. You can see it has a little ring of solder inside there. And these are heat shrink. So what I'm going to do, just slip one end of my wires through there. My green ends together here. Of course, it probably goes without saying, but do make sure that you're wrapping the same color wires, connecting the same color wires together. Okay, and then that slides over, and I'm going to turn my heat gun here on, and we'll melt that solder in the middle, and then the heat shrink tubing will shrink up to seal the wires. There we go. It's a little hard to get it to focus that close, but you can see that silver solder has flowed and surrounded my wires in the middle. And then heat shrink tubing has made a nice connection and sealed that all up. When my electrical connections are done and cooled, I then like to take a little bit of heat shrink tubing and just cover up this whole junction so that there's a nice continuous sheath all the way around all of that. That'll keep it nice and protected for the parts that are underneath the fender. Make sure that the weather doesn't attempt to get to my connections at all. And there we have the finished product. We've got our TT250 turn signal, a nice strong electrical connection here in the middle, and heat shrink tubing to protect it from the weather. So now we'll take it and reinstall it, and we'll see what our tail end of the bike looks like with two nice looking TT250 turn signals. Installation will just be the opposite of when we took it off. So first thing we're going to do is feed the wires through the little bracket here on the fender. And then we will put our hardware back on. And that's going to go big washer, lock washer, nut. It's actually a little tight over the junction where the wires are joined, but it does fit. Pull that through, and the signal actually has a little flat spot here to help it orient correctly in the bracket. Tighten that down. Then I'm going to go underneath the fender. It's awfully hard to show, so I'm just going to describe. I'm going under the fender. Remember our clip from before has a little hook. I'm feeding the wire through the hook. I'm going to pinch the hook closed so that it stays in there. And then I'm going to gently bend that whole thing back up until it contacts the rear fender. Feed my wires up through the hole in the fender. Push those through. We'll check underneath, make sure everything is in place. Go under the metal bracket here. And then I'm going to plug my green side into this double with the other green, and the orange connects back to orange. Slide up my little connector covers. And there we go. That's it. Now slide the rubber boot here that's covering all those. And that's it. We are done and in business. Let's take a quick look at what it looks like on the back. You can see now those turn signals are super slender. They kind of almost just disappear until you switch on the power and turn them on. And then they are nice and bright. All right, we are in business in the rear of the bike. And now we can turn our attention to the front. Doing the front signals is going to simultaneously be simpler in that we don't have to splice the wires, I don't think, and more complicated because we have to actually remove the headlight and get into the back of the headlight bucket there, which I've never done. So we will take that adventure together. It's going to be taking off these two screw hex bolts here at the side, and then we'll see if we need to actually remove the headlight from its housing. Well, I didn't want to get into the bucket, but I can't seem to get those screws loose. So let's take these screws off and we'll lower our headlight down and see what we're looking at. Now for the moment of truth. Screws out. Wiggle that guy free. Hey, look at that. That is neater and less scary than I thought it was going to be. So I will get in there and identify the wiring for the turn signals, and then we'll get to work looking at the length of wire we're going to need here. I think we're going to be strictly plug and play with the front ones. With just a little bit of looking, I was able to figure out that this is our bundle of wires for the two turn signals. On one side, you've got blue and green, and then the other side, the orange and green, just like in the back. So I'm going to just disconnect one set of those at a time. I'd rather not. I want to make sure that it doesn't get mixed up on which green is which green. So I'm going to disconnect my blue and green. And it looks like that runs over here to what is actually the right side. So I'm going to go ahead and take that one off. We'll reconnect it, and then we'll just do the same for the other side. There's the right hand signal installed. It was pretty tricky to get to the screw and the nut back here, so I actually had to take the light bucket off its hinges so that I could move it around a little bit. But easy peasy, the wiring plugged straight in. So we'll do the other side now. With the bike all buttoned up, I wanted to bring you out here into the good light of the garage so you can see just how cool the new turn signals look. They are sleek. They kind of disappear into the bike when they're not on. But when you light them up, they are very, very visible indeed. I am super happy with how this project went and the final product, and honestly, how easy it was. That was super cheap, super easy modification that really, I think, made the aesthetics of the bike pop. I'm happy to be away from the big stock turn signals. I think these TT250s look fantastic. Why don't we give them a quick light up just so you can see what I'm talking about. Excellent visibility. Just no concerns whatsoever that those are not going to be bright or visible enough. Yeah, super, super happy with how that modification went. As always, friends, thanks for hanging out with me through this project. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned a little something. Hope you got inspired to maybe take on a project of your own. Maybe look at the TT250 and see what other parts might we borrow for our SG250s. Please do like and subscribe if you're enjoying the content. And as I said, thanks for being with me. Take care, guys.